Good afternoon. I'm calling to order the Planning Commission meeting. It is Thursday, March 31st, 2022, 4:30, City Hall Council Chambers. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 24th, 2022 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to read? Are there corrections, additions?
I'll offer a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have been approved. Opening the public hearing portion of the meeting. First item on the agenda is consider for approval the application of Nathan Spurl and Arlene Spurl applicants and Thomas and Sandra Bauer owners requesting a conditional use permit to allow the following in an I-2 general industry zoning district. First point, the operation of a small recording studio, and secondly, private individual music lessons on the property legally described as the east 65 feet of Lot 6 and Lot 7, Block 2, north of German Street. City report.
All right, the street address for this property is 227 North Front Street, and the property is located south of 3rd North Street and west of North Front Street. This first part of the staff report I'm going to read is regarding the transitional regulations as we transition from our current zoning ordinance, which is still in effect, to our new zoning ordinance, which will be in effect on April 3rd, so Sunday. Okay. Section 1.8E1A, transitional regulations of the new zoning ordinance state the following. Pending application. Any complete application that has been submitted or accepted for review, but upon which no final action has been taken by the appropriate decision-making body prior to the effective date of this ordinance shall be reviewed in accordance with the provisions of ordinances in effect on the date the application was deemed completed by the city. So, to summarize that, these applications that we'll be looking at tonight will be under the current ordinance that is in effect for the city. And I'm reading that right now because I don't want to read that for each one of the applications after that. Deadline for a decision on this application is May 2nd, 2022. The land use designation in the comprehensive plan designates this land as industry. Surrounding land uses to the north, south, east, and west are also industry. The zoning designation for this property is I-2, the general industrial district, and surrounding zoning of this property are also I-2 to the north, south, east, and west. Currently, the building is vacant. It is the former location of Tomtronics, which was an electronic repair shop. Current land area uses to the north are a single-family dwelling and the former GOG sheet metal business location. To the east, a single-family dwelling, a storage building, and vacant property. To the south, a single-family dwelling and the CTE, or the Career Technical Education Center parking lot. And then to the west, a single-family dwelling and the CTE building. Notice was provided to all property owners within 350 feet of the subject property and published in the Journal on March 19th, 2022. To date, staff has not received any comments on this application. Project description. The purpose of the I-2 zoning district is to provide a district that would allow general industrial uses due to their size and nature would not be permitted in the I-1 or the planned industrial district. This facility will record and provide music lessons. Within the I-2 zoning district, land use is similar to the listed permitted uses. Allowed it with a conditional use permit would be a recording studio. A recording studio would be similar to an electronic products manufacturers and engraving and printing and publishing establishments. Private music lessons are permitted in the I-2 zoning district with a conditional use permit, provided they are an institution of an educational, philanthropic, or charitable nature. City staff considers music lessons to be an educational type of land use. Music recording studio is permitted in the B2 Service Business District and the B3 General Business Zoning District. The total lot area for this property is 5,000 square feet or 0.11 acres. The applicant provides the following information on the project. This proposal is to operate a small recording studio in the existing building that is located on the property. This would allow area musicians to come into the studio and record their music. The applicant will take the recorded music and master it for professional release and for private use. Recording studio is expected to be used once or twice a month. A related use for the studio involves the applicant being sent recorded music, which is then polished and then sent back to the musician. Another part of this business would be the private music lessons, and that would educate learners from beginners to intermediate levels of instruction. Hours of work will primarily be 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., with some work on the weekends depending on the client needs. For noise mitigation for this proposal, the applicant, in the applicant's present studio, which is at a different location, he has extensive sound absorption and reflection materials that do a satisfactory job in noise mitigation. The applicant is working with Pullman Lumber to install new frosted block windows in the live or recording room to address security and noise, and then double pane windows in the control and lesson room. When the applicant is polishing music, it's generally done solo and with headphones to reduce noise. So in order to recommend approval of this permit, the commission will need to determine that, one, the proposed use, recording studio, is in the same general character as some of the permitted uses in the I-2 zoning district. Two, the proposed use music lessons are offered through an educational institution. And then three, the request complies with the conditions required for granting of a conditional use permit. The reverse side of the conditional use permit application lists 7 conditions and the applicant's response to them. The 8th question asks, why should the city approve your request? And the applicant's response was that the applicant is proposing to keep the building aesthetically the same, only improving with fresh paint of the same color, new windows, flooring, and landscaping. New Ulm is rich in musical talent, but the applicant's current recording studio on the second floor is on a second floor, which makes it impossible for some older musicians to record. The current use, Tomtronics, was an electronic repair shop with customers dropping off and picking up and having no issues. Customer traffic would be similar. The Planning Commission and the City Council must make an affirmative finding on all the criteria listed above in order to grant this conditional use permit. The applicant has the burden of proof to show that all the criteria have been satisfied. We have 4 attachments. We have the application and site and building plan. We have the site location map, the zoning map, and then ground levels of the property. Staff would recommend approval of the request for the following reasons. The applicant complies with the conditions requiring for the granting of a conditional use permit. 2, the private music lessons would be permitted as a conditional use since it serves an educational purpose. 3, land uses similar to a music recording studio in the I-2 district include electrical and electronic products manufacturers and engraving, printing, and publishing establishments. 4, a music recording studio and space for private music lessons would generally be less intense than most I-2 permitted land uses. The music recording studio and private music lesson space would be compatible and would not adversely impact other industrial land uses in the area. The parking provided on the recording studio and private music, the parking provided on the site for the recording studio and private music lessons can be shared since the primary use times of both activities is generally not the same. And appropriate steps will be taken to reduce the amount of noise generated by the business. Staff would recommend 4 conditions if this proposal were to be approved. 1, the hours of operation will generally be from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. with limited weekend hours. 2, no exterior storage will be permitted on the property. 3, customer parking will take place on the hard surface locations on the applicant's property. 4, the applicant and property owner will pay the cost to record the permit with the Brown County Recorder's Office. And then 5, the use shall comply with the performance standards found in Subdivision 8, Paragraph B, of Section 9.12 of the City Code. We did provide 2 potential motions, 1 to approve this application and 1 to deny the application. I believe the applicant is present with us here today. So if there was questions, we can ask them as well. And that would conclude the staff report.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comments, questions for the applicant?
It'd be a good use of the property.
I think it's an
and,
excellent use, yeah.
you know, so in those regards.
It's nice to see a building not stay vacant. And it, you know, it's a quiet corner. I would not be concerned about the noise much because if he's mastering music, he doesn't want noise coming in, so he certainly doesn't want noise going out. So,
Sure, the train's noisier than anything.
yeah, the
that we
train
can-
is what I'm concerned about. They go
If you
more
need
at
train
night.
sound, you're in the right spot.
Yeah. They run more in the evening, yeah.
I think it's a creative use of the property, and then it's nice to see that it's not being torn down, because it does have some interest to it. I think it's a really great idea, too.
It's a good use. Have a motion if there's no questions or concerns?
Close the public hearing.
We'll close the public hearing for that portion of the meeting, yes.
I would make a motion to approve with the staff recommendations as stated.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with conditions. Is there any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? When does this appear, Dave, before the council?
That'll be next Tuesday, April 5th.
Third, fourth? Is that April, next Tuesday, April? Okay,
5th, I believe.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Good luck. Next item for public hearing is consider for approval the application of Amber Adams requesting a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a massage therapy business on the home occupation in an R1 single-family residence zoning district in the property legally described as Lot A3 of Outlot 364. Staff?
The street address for this property is 406 South Garden Street. The property is located west of South Garden Street and south of 4th South Street. Again, just a reminder, we are going to be using the existing zoning ordinance to evaluate this proposal. Deadline for a decision on this application is April 16th, 2022. Land use designation by the city's comprehensive plan is low-density residential. Surrounding land uses include low-density residential to the north, south, and west, and then to the east we have public or semi-public uses. The zoning designation is the R1, it's the single-family residence district. Surrounding zoning to this property to the north, south, east, and west are all R1. Current site use is a single-family dwelling with a tuck-under single-stall garage. Current area land uses include single-family dwellings to the north, south, and west, north, south, and west. And then to the east, we have the New Ulm Public Middle School and Jefferson Elementary. Notice was provided to all property owners within 350 feet of the subject property and published in the Journal on March 19th of 2022. To date, staff has received no comments on this application. Project description. The definition section of the current zoning ordinance defines a home occupation as an occupation of a service character which is clearly secondary to the main use of the premises as a dwelling, and does not change the character thereof or have any exterior evidence of such secondary use, and does not utilize an accessory building. This occupation shall be carried on or conducted only by the member of the family residing in the dwelling and in connection with which there is no kept stock in trade or commodity for sale except such as may be produced by the members of the immediate family residing on the premises. Offices of professional persons and home occupations are allowed in the R1 zoning district with the approval of a conditional use permit. That section of the city code would read as follows. Dwellings may be used for professional office or home occupations which such use does not exceed 1/3 of the main floor space of a dwelling and is conducted entirely within the dwelling and incidental to the benefit of such premises as a bona fide home, but only if no article is sold or offered for sale, nor any service provided except as may be produced or provided by the members of the immediate family residing in the premises. The conditional use permit for a home occupation shall be terminated when the following conditions are met, or when a following condition is met. The home occupation has been discontinued for a period of excess of 60 days. City council finds that there has been a violation of the conditions imposed upon the issuance of the conditional use permit for a home occupation. And then C, the city council finds upon recommendation of the planning commission that the home occupation has become a danger to public health, safety, comfort, convenience, or general welfare. In the application, the applicant provided the following information on their proposed use. This will be a small part-time business that provides massage therapy in several bodywork techniques to rehabilitate the body and mind of their clients. It will be owned and operated by the applicant in their home. There will be no change to the exterior or interior of the residence. Only one client will be present at a time, and the driveway can accommodate 2 lanes of parking. The applicant also stated that there will be a maximum of 4 people per day that could receive massages, and the business will be open approximately 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Longest appointment would be 90 minutes. The applicant is currently enrolled in Ridgewater College's massage therapy program. Graduation from this program is scheduled for the fall, at which time the massage therapy AAS degree will be received and the applicant will be a certified massage therapist. Since 1987, the city has approved 6 home occupation conditional use permits for massage businesses. So this is a common request for a home occupation. The city has previously approved home occupation permits for hair salons, chiropractic, art and music lessons, and pet grooming businesses. These businesses all require customers to visit the residence. The city in the past has approved conditions for home occupations, including hours of operation, number of days per week, and the maximum number of clients at any one time. The staff is not aware of any problems associated with the operation of these types of businesses as home occupations. In order to recommend approval, the commission will need to determine that the request complies with conditions requiring for granting of a conditional use permit. The reverse side of the conditional use permit application lists the 7 conditions and the applicant's response to them. And again, the 8th question asks, why should the city approve your request? The applicant's response was, it's a business with the goal of helping body and mind of clients in the community. In the staff report, we had 4 attachments. Number 1 is the application. Number 2 is the site location map. 3 is the zoning district map, and then 4 were ground level photographs of the property. Staff would recommend approval of the request for the following reasons. 1, the request complies with the conditions required for the granting of a conditional use permit. 2, it is anticipated that the limited amount of customer traffic generated by this business at this residence, and there will only be 1 client at a time. 3, there is sufficient space for off-street parking. And then 4, the business is similar to other uses previously issued conditional use permits for home occupations, and the city is not aware of any problems associated with these activities. Staff would recommend 4 conditions. First condition would be that the hours of operation will generally be from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. No activity will take place after 9 p.m. of each day. 2, the applicant will pay the cost to record the permit with the Brown County Recorder's Office. 3, the applicant will secure and maintain all necessary licensing from appropriate governmental units for the practice of massage therapy. And 4, customer parking will take place on hard surface locations on the applicant's property. We did provide you with 2 potential motions, 1 to approve the application and 1 to deny the application. The applicant is present here, so if you have any questions, you may be able to address them. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. This appears to be pretty straightforward to me, but I'm going to ask for questions, concerns?
One question. So based on the ordinance, they could not put up a sign anywhere that says that identifies like that that's the place to go. Is that correct?
They're allowed to have 2 square feet on the property.
That's the same requirement that the hair salons and stuff too. They usually have just small little plaques either on the house or in the window or something.
But when you read this, it just didn't, it sounded to me like they could not have anything that showed that there was a evidence of such secondary use.
Okay.
So that's,
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that was okay. Fine.
Any other questions?
We've granted them before in the past, and we haven't had any complaints, staff has stated, so I don't see any reason why not.
I
you know.
don't see what.
There's a need for it. It's very hard to get in a massage therapist. So it's exciting to see someone else coming to town.
Yeah, I agree. May I have a motion to approve or deny?
I'll offer a motion to recommend approval with conditions, the application of Amber Adams for the conditional use permit to allow the location and operation of massage therapy business as a home occupation as described their conditional use permit application dated February 10th, 2022 on the property legally described as Lot A-3, Outlot 364.
I second.
Okay, I didn't close the public hearing, but I will now. Is there any other questions or concerns? I have a motion and a second to approve with conditions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, and this is same next week at the city council?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next item for public hearing is consider for approval the application of I'm going to murder this, Trelevin. Thank you. On behalf of Sweet Haven Tonics LLC applicant and Ann Vogel owner, requesting a conditional use permit to allow the following in a B3 general business zoning district. First is production and retail space of Sweet Haven Tonics products, and second, the operation of a tasting room using Sweet Haven Tonics craft beverage concentrates on the property legally described as Lot 10, accepting parcel VC, parcel VD, and the vacant alley right-of-way abutting Lot 10, Block 64, north of Center Street.
All
John?
right. So the street address for this property is 110 North Minnesota Street. Excuse me. The property is located east of North Minnesota Street and north of First North Street. Again, we're going to be reviewing this application under the current zoning ordinance. Deadline for a decision is May 10th, 2022. The land use designation for this property is the downtown. Surrounding land uses to this property to the north, south, east, and west, again, are downtown. The zoning designation is the B3, it's the general business district. And then surrounding zoning to this property are also B3 to the north, south, east, and west. Currently, the building is vacant and is the former location of Herberger's. Current area land uses include storage and the Inspire Wedding Center to the north. And to the east, we have the former location of the Marketplatz Mall and a public parking lot. To the south, we have a vacant building and Clifton Larson Allen, excuse me. And to the west, we have Citizens Bank, Patterson Jewelry, and Inspired. Notice was provided to all property owners within 350 feet of the subject property and published in the Journal on March 19th, 2022. And to date, staff has received no comments on this application. So the purpose of the B3 zoning district is to accommodate the central retail and office activities, which are of citywide and regional significance with a wide variety of retail shopping opportunities. The retail and office uses that are allowed in this district are those that are basically retail in nature in order that a convenient, compact regional shopping area can be provided. Other general business activities of the same general character as those listed as permitted uses that are allowed in the B3 zoning district with a conditional use permit. The proposed use is similar to those following land uses in the B3 zoning district. Pastry or pastry shops selling retail only, beverage stores, candy, ice cream, soft drink, confectionery stores, delicatessens, printing, lithographing, publishing, blueprinting, photocopying, and restaurants, tea rooms, cafes, and taverns. In the new zoning ordinance, we did take into account the new types of businesses that would be located in areas like a downtown. And we do designate this property as B4, so the central business district. Purpose of this district in the new zoning ordinance is to provide for the development and redevelopment of the established downtown core, which includes a mix of retail, financial, office, service, entertainment, public activities, and appropriately located residential uses. Of the listed uses in the B4 zoning district in the new zoning ordinance, Sweet Haven Tonics would be similar to a brew pub. Brew pub is defined as a brewer who also holds one or more retail on-sale licenses and who manufactures fewer than 3,500 barrels of malt liquor in any year at any one licensed premises, the entire production of which is solely for the consumption on tap on any licensed premises owned by the brewer, or for off-sale from those licensed premises as permitted by state statutes 340A as amended. You might remember the last meeting we had a very similar type of application. A brew pub is permitted in the B4 zoning district with a conditional use permit. The total lot area for this property is 8,108 square feet or 0.19 acres. The first floor or the street level portion of the building is currently vacant and will be used by Sweet Haven Tonics. The second floor is and will continue to be used by various nonprofit groups, and the basement is currently vacant but may be used by Sweet Haven Tonics in the future. The applicant provides the following information on the project. Sweet Haven Tonics is planning to produce and provide for the retail sale of their products at this location. The space will also serve as a tasting room for the tasting and creating of cocktails and mocktails using Sweet Haven Tonics and craft beverage concentrates. So mocktails, for those of you who don't know, they don't have alcohol in them. Initial plans are to convert the back half of the building to a tonic production and packaging area, and the front half as the tasting room. Sidewalk tables may be utilized as weather permits. The loading and unloading of the products is planned to take place in the front of the building adjoining North Minnesota Street. So, in order to recommend approval of the permit, the commission will need to determine that 1, the proposed uses of the same general character as permitted uses in the B3 zoning district, and 2, the request complies with conditions required for the granting of a conditional use permit. The reverse side of the conditional use permit application again lists 7 conditions and the applicant's response to them. The eighth question asks, why should the city approve your request? The applicant's response is as follows. Sweet Haven Tonics production and tasting room will be a positive addition to the downtown shopping area and will attract visitors and encourage the use of the downtown area. In your packets, we provided 4 attachments. Attachment number 1 is the conditional use permit application. Attachment number 2 is the site location map. Attachment number 3 is the zoning map. And attachment number 4 are ground level photographs of the property. Staff would recommend approval of the request for the following reasons. 1, the application complies with conditions required for the granting of a conditional use permit. 2, the proposed use is of the same general character as other permitted uses in the B3 zoning district, and this would include a bakery, bar, restaurant, and printing shop. 3, the proposed use is compatible with adjoining land uses as well as those other uses found in the downtown area. 4, it's anticipated there will be no impacts to surrounding properties or the community from manufacturing of Sweet Haven Tonics products. 5, manufacturing process will take place within the building. And then 6, the proposed use of the site is similar to a brew pub or brewery or winery. And the brewery, brew pub, or winery is a land use found in many other downtown areas in Minnesota communities. We would recommend 4 conditions with this conditional use permit application. 1, that the applicant pay the cost to record the permit with the Brown County Recorder's Office. 2, there will be no exterior storage permitted on the properties. 3, the applicant will secure and maintain necessary state and federal licenses to operate the business. 4, there will be no external manufacturing impacts on area properties. And then 5, the applicant will comply with the city's outdoor seating requirements. We provided 2 potential motions, 1 to approve and 1 to deny this application. The applicant and the owner of the property are present, and I'm sure we'll be able to answer questions if you have them. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. I'm looking through some pictures here. I'm sorry. Can you,
Where I live in New York? Oh, okay.
So state your name and address. You can stand right.
Okay, thank you. Emily at 311. I live at 1400 South Payne Street, and am the owner of Sweet Haven Tonics. If it's all right, I'll give you some samples so you know what I'll be producing.
thank you.
Thank you.
Question about trash and the back of the building, since this is all main floor. Are we exiting garbage out the front, or is it going through the basement? Or, I mean, I'm assuming that there are boxes, something. So when you're through, could you go address that question, please, at the microphone?
Sure.
Or if it's going to be going through the basement level and out the back.
I'm a fan.
From the pictures here I'm looking at, there's a lot of construction equipment and stuff in the back, so I think those doors are the back of that building, but I'm not sure.
Well, actually, if you look at attachment number 2, the site location map, that blue highlighted property is the one we're talking about here. And actually, there's 3 doors in the back and north side of the Market Plots Mall. Those doors enter into a loading dock area, which actually leads into the building that she'll be doing the production in.
So is garbage going out the back or out the front?
Garbage would go out the back, and that's where we would have dumpsters located for those. Primarily, our waste consists of cardboard boxes, which are broken down, some jugs that contain the vinegar, which is a primary component in it, and there's also some organic scrap that happens when we process the fresh ingredients.
Is this area off the right-of-way of the alley?
Yes. Right now, we remove things as needed, so and we do all of our production off-site currently. The back of the building right now is being used by Inspire for a lot of their manufacturing, so even moving in and out of that back area is very difficult. We can't access it. Once that's cleaned out, we'll definitely use the back entrance to bring garbage out.
Okay, but it also said product is coming in the front door, though.
Correct.
So is this semis, or is this UPS delivery, or is this both?
It could be both. When we bring product in, there's no access to the main level through the back. That's been closed off. And so the only way to get product in from the back would be to go in through the basement and bring it up the steps or through the elevator, which is not made for that. So when we bring in larger amounts of pallets of boxes and things, they'll park on a side street, and then we use a pallet jack to bring them in the front door. But that's a pretty we buy in bulk, and so it's not happening every day. It's probably a monthly occurrence.
I just look at Main Street and we have a lot of the beer trucks and things that are parking, and if you've ever been parked in downtown, sometimes it takes a while for them to move. And the UPS is delivering it, and I don't know why the alleys aren't used more often. I understand in your case, you don't have direct access on your floor. So,
We recommend that anyone who delivers to our building parks on Second Street.
okay, on the
So,
side street.
on the side street, so that they're not blocking traffic. It also allows us to get the pallet jack up onto the sidewalk. Otherwise, we have to go up over the curb, so
So you're going through the construction.
we are.
Okay, thank you. That takes
I
care
think,
of
for the
my questions.
question, one of the issues on that side of Minnesota Street is the topography.
Yes,
I mean, as you go down towards German Street, you're losing a floor, and so you're entering in a
Right.
basement in the back and have to somehow get it up to the first floor.
yeah, which I used to work in one of the businesses downtown, and all the deliveries at that time, everything was in through the alley, and, there was doorbells in the back of everybody's store, but I understand that she's just on the first floor, so it does make it somewhat more difficult. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Just very exciting to see something happening in that building.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
Kind of
It's
different too, like, it's exciting.
I'd like to see some clean windows there. They're a little scummy now.
We'll be cleaning windows and also adding windows with approval from the Historic
HBC.
Commission. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're excited to bring some light into that building and to open it up and bring some of the traditional look back to it.
Because they were open, it was more open at one time, wasn't it? I thought that there was more. I thought they were closed up.
Before Herberger's came in, it was more open.
More open. It would be nice to see some of the frontage of that building again, yes.
Madam Chair, what kind of capacity do you have or anticipate having for your tasting area?
I believe that our capacity is at 49 due to the fact that there's only one entrance in and out of the tasting room. So we would like to also allow people to rent out the space for small family gatherings or group gatherings as well, but they would be smaller, only about 49 at the most.
There's a lot of work because I don't know that there are restrooms on that floor.
It is a lot of work. But yes, we will be.
Restrooms are out in the hall for that too.
Yep, we'll
Yeah.
be adding 2 restrooms to the area as well.
It will be great to have it.
Do you have a timeline on this project, Leah?
Yeah, we are hoping to have the production area finalized by May. That's when our equipment gets here and we'll have that part of production going. If you've looked in the windows, you realize how much work it is to make that a beautiful space to enjoy time. So we are hoping to have that space finalized conservatively by the end of the year, although my hope is that it's ready by late fall so that we can enjoy some holiday gatherings there as well.
Is your production in the back gonna ramp up prior? I mean, what's your phasing? Obviously, production, you said is off-site now, you wanna move it and then have the tasting room, but
Right. So right now, we actually do our production in the commercial kitchen of St. Paul's Lutheran School on nights and weekends. They have a nice big steam kettle that we use. I was actually there right before I came here and paused, and we'll be going back right after. But right now, we can produce about 100 gallons within the 8-hour work window that we're there. It's really exciting to have this production space because it will allow Sweet Haven Tonics to make upwards of 20,000 gallons a week.
Wow.
And so we're very excited to be expanding our production capacity and approaching larger clients.
So deliveries and shipping are both going out the front door, because I'm assuming you're talking about shipping product to,
Correct.
Just another question. Are you kind of a regional type of distribution, or do you intend to go further than that, or what?
Right now, locally, it's all self-distribution. The product is not alcoholic, so we don't require, we're not required to use a distributor. We have locations that sell our product in Stillwater, in South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa. But we definitely have our eye on, first of all, increasing regional, state sales first, then regional, and then the goal is to be a national brand.
Question here, Leah. And one of the staff is stating that like a brew pub is limited to 3,500 barrels per year. Do we have a limit on, for capacities here? Because
No.
how much production?
No.
Because of the
The-
non-alcoholic?
Yeah,
Okay.
the purpose of using the brew pub example is simply how that type of use functions.
The business
It
structure.
wasn't the requirements that maybe are assigned to a brew pub. It's just
Okay.
that we feel that her facility is going to operate the same as a brew pub would.
Okay.
So, and it's just, follows that question. Would you get a permit to have alcohol on site in order to make the cocktails along with the mocktails as well? And that's where the brew pub application, because you would have to secure a permit for alcohol and then, yeah. But you're not producing an alcoholic product. You're
Not producing alcohol, and we just spoke, I can't remember her name now, but we spoke about the cost of a liquor license being $3,200, including Sundays. And so I think at that cost, we will be pursuing a liquor license so that we can control the quality of the spirits that are being used within the cocktails. We had entertained the idea of doing a carry-in license or something along those lines, but I definitely want the experience and the product to be more under my control than that. And I have a lot of great connections and celebrate a lot of the Minnesota-made spirits and would love to expose our community to those if they haven't had them.
Further business?
No.
Are we ready? Does anyone else have any questions, comments? Close the public hearing if I have a motion.
Motion to approve with the staff recommendations as stated.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with conditions. Are there any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck at the city council meeting.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Next for public hearing is to consider for approval the application of Dennis P. and Kathleen J. Lux requesting a variance to allow a detached accessory structure to be constructed with a height of 19 feet 6 inches on the property located legally described as the front 90 feet of Lot 1, Block 178, south of Center Street.
All right, the street address for this property is 300 South Jefferson Street, and the property is located southwest of the intersection of 3rd South Street and South Jefferson Street. Again, we're reviewing this request under the current city code and zoning ordinance. Deadline for a decision on this application is May 13th, 2022. The land use designation for this property is low-density residential, and surrounding land uses to this property are also all low-density residential. The zoning designation is R2. It's the single and two-family residence district, and surrounding zoning also is all R2. The current site use is a single-family residence, and current area land uses surrounding the property are all single and two-family dwellings. There was no notice required, but I should note in the new zoning ordinance, there will be notices required for variances. To date, staff has received no comments on this application. Project description. So the purpose of the R2 single and two-family residence district is intended to be a low-density residential district, which allows for one and two-family dwellings where such development fits the land use plan and where municipal utilities are available. An R2 district is not a multiple family district or a multiple family residential district for the purposes of planning and development under this code, or for the purpose of interpretation under any state, federal, or local law and regulation. Section 9.14, Subdivision 3G3, accessory buildings state that a detached accessory building not over 1 story and not exceeding 16 feet in height shall occupy no more than 30% of the area of any rear yard and shall comply with the definition of a private garage in Section 9.03, providing further that no detached accessory building shall be located 10 feet from any rear lot line. Section 9.14, Subdivision 3A1, height regulations say that where the average slope of a lot is greater than 1 foot rise or fall in 7 feet of a horizontal distance from the established street elevation at the property line, 1 story in addition to the number permitted in the district in which the lot is situated shall be permitted on the downhill side of any building. So if the lot has a 14.3% slope, we allow to go up higher. City staff has been on the site and measured the slope from the front property, North Jefferson, to the rear of the property. The approximate slope on the property is a 1 foot rise in 10 feet of horizontal distance, or a 10% slope from front to back of this lot. There are currently 2 small detached accessory structures on the property. The small accessory structures would be removed if a new garage were to be built. Current zoning ordinance allows up to 1,000 square feet of a detached accessory structure on a residential property. Again, that has a primary residence already located on the property in this zoning district. So because this is a corner lot in the R2 zoning district, there are 2 front yard setbacks, which are 30 feet, and then two side yard setbacks, which are 5 feet. This lot is 50 feet by 90 feet, or 4,500 square feet in size. The applicant is proposing to construct a 660 square foot, 19 foot, 6 inch tall detached garage. The application provides the following information on the project. 1, the garage is smaller and shorter. The garage will be smaller and is shorter than the house. The applicant has indicated that the peak of the proposed garage will be approximately at the same height as the eave of the house, the back of the house. The garage will keep the same roof pitch as the house and will have the same color and look as the house. So project considerations. So in order to recommend approval of a variance request, the commission will need to determine that 1, the variance is in harmony with the purposes and intent of Chapter 9. 2, the variance request is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. 3, the proposal puts the property to use in a reasonable manner. 4, there are circumstances unique to this property that necessitate the need for a variance. 5, there are circumstances unique to this property that necessitate the need for a variance not created by the property owner. 6, variance will maintain the essential character of the neighborhood. And 7, economic conditions alone do not constitute the need for a variance. The Planning Commission and City Council will make affirmative finding on all the criteria listed above in order to grant a variance. The applicant has the burden of proof to show that all criteria above have been satisfied. And again, just a reminder, as we move forward here with the new zoning ordinance, we do have a findings of fact sheet that will be literally having to talk through at these meetings and provide answers to the questions on the variance criteria. There are 5 attachments. Attachment 1 is the application and site and building plan. Attachment 2 is the site location map. Attachment 3 is the zoning map. Attachment 4 is the contour map of the property, so you can see the slope and the contours on that site. Attachment 5 are ground level photographs of the property. If approved, staff would recommend 3 conditions. 1, The applicant shall contact the city once stakes have been set for the placement of the accessory structure. 2, the applicant shall verify the height of the accessory structure with the building official prior to construction commencing. And then 3, no exterior storage will be permitted on the property or around the building. Staff did provide 2 potential motions, one to approve the variance and one to deny the variance. Again, the applicant is present here today, and I'm sure will answer any questions you might have. And that would conclude the staff report.
Thank you.
Just a comment, John, you said that his application met all the criteria of,
Well,
in how you stated that?
There are, 7 criteria. The one that there's maybe a little trouble with here is there anything unique to the property? Okay, we tried to, I would say, address property uniqueness issues by having that provision in our zoning ordinance that says if you have a 1:7 ratio of slope, or that 14.3% slope, then you can go a little bit higher. This doesn't necessarily meet that criteria because it's only 10% slope from the front of the property to the back of that property.
But it is lower than the existing structure on the property. As from the front face, you wouldn't
see it.
see it.
It'd be lower, or it'd be in line with the eave of the back of the house.
That's what I was reading there and stuff, but I think, you're in a unique situation here though, and he's trying to maximize the storage to go up, and not have multiple buildings, and capacities, and it doesn't have living quarters or anything in it, and it's just, it kind of makes sense with, trying to have some yard yet, because if you, all of a sudden you have another shed or two and, it's just, but.
Talking about 3 feet 6 inches that we're looking
Correct.
to. That's what's requiring this. That's the only thing is this 3 feet.
Yep.
And we've had that before prior with different properties where I can think of the Elford one out by Cottonwood Street where he had a rough line that he wanted to follow on his detached structure to his residence. I know that's just one that comes to mind right now.
So if they didn't have the peak to match the house, would they then meet the standard of 16?
They'd have to be at 16 feet, so it'd be much lower than the house.
I suppose they could do some sort of gabled.
They could lower their storage.
Yeah, I just got to clarify something here.
Excuse me, could you
So when I
state
drew
your-
this up-
Could you state your name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dennis Lux,
Thank
an
you.
address?
Mhm.
Yeah, 41424, 595th Lane, New Ulm.
Thank you.
So this is my son that lives at this residence. But when I drew this up, he had told me that the gutter, the eave of the house was at 20 feet, but it's at 17 feet. So this is the full walkout basement on the back side of this house. So what we're looking at is about 19'6". So that peak of the garage will be about 2.5 feet lower than the peak of the house. It's not going to be even with the gutter, because that gutter is at 17 feet. And the reason that we're going with this height is to try to get a little more space in that house, because it's just, the house is 24 by 38. So this would be a storage room up there. It might be a playroom for his daughter. That's why we're trying to get a little more height to it. The pitch on the garage will be the same pitch on the house. So I think the only time you actually will probably see the garage is when you're coming down towards Jefferson School. As far as being on Jefferson Street, it'll be hidden by the house.
This is in no way, this is totally detached, though.
This is
correct?
detached. Yeah, this is a detached.
And no one is living in the structure.
No one's living in the structure.
Any other questions?
I'm struggling with kind of proving that proof of burden, like that there's some other reason that we have to have this additional 3 feet. And I'm just curious, like, I don't know how to answer that question, but what question it is, but like,
you want to stay at, why the extra room is needed, or why it
Right,
can't
'cause
be
we
at
need to-
16 feet, why it needs a variance?
Yeah, because we need to say that there's something unique about this property that's making it like they have to have this extra feet for some reason. And I'm not seeing what that reason is,
Okay.
besides just wanting a little extra space. Well, we all want a little extra space, but
So this is because you want two full floors to the garage, not just a floor and a half, correct?
Well, it won't be like you can see in the drawing that those sidewalls, it's a vaulted ceiling I got figured above that garage. So those sidewalls, I think I got them drawn at about, 68 inches, 60 and a half inches. So it's not full head height up there.
So it's just under 6 feet,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. And that could vary too. I mean, I don't have the heel of the rafter drawn on there also. So I mean, those sidewalls we can cut back 6 inches, whatever it takes to satisfy the commission as far as that height of that. So,
I'm trying to get to your answer, but I
Is
don't know
there-
I don't quite know how to get to it either.
is it a half lot or is it a full lot? But half lot.
Half a lot.
And how big is the house?
the house is 24 by 38.
Size house.
What is the footage from the house and the garage with the fence there? Maybe that'll help you see it if you're
It
looking at the back.
looks like 13 feet.
Okay. Between the house and the garage.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just not seeing any like
Okay.
things that make this
Unique.
unique. Unfortunately, like there's just not.
And
I hate
that's
to be that person, but there.
No,
there
that's
just
fine.
isn't.
that's absolutely fine. Are there any other questions, concerns?
And we're 4% underneath the code for the slope. So, I mean,
Yeah. It's a fine line.
yeah.
How,
Is the concrete?
John, my question for you is, if it was a 13% slope or a 14% slope, would he be in compliance?
Well,
Would he still be out of compliance by any, like 2 feet or 3 feet or?
again, it's got to be that 1 to 7, so it's got to be that 14.3. That's what's in our code.
When you measured, made that measurement, did you go just to this lot, or did you go all the way down to the alley?
Elwood?
Elwood Zabel, building official. We measured from the front lot line to the rear lot line is where we measured to. And if it was at 14.3%, he wouldn't be coming in for a variance. He would qualify because it's 1 story plus that 16 feet. He could go up.
He would
So
qualify.
He would qualify
Okay.
for it. Yeah.
I'm curious, if he measured all the way down to the alley, would it qualify?
That's hard to say. It levels off a little bit once you get past there again, but there's still fall there. But it says property line, so that's what we measured to from property line down. If it was a full lot, we'd go back down to the alley property line, but it's hard to say where that would fall into at that point.
Okay.
It does look from the photographs that there's some significant slope to the alley.
Beyond, yeah.
Yeah. Is that concrete slab going to be part of? You're going to be using that, so that's part of your construction.
Yeah, the Dens who lived there prior, they poured that concrete slab there like 16 inches deep. So they actually had a little kind of a dollhouse or a kid's house on there, and then that one shed that you can see there. My son moved that shed just to kind of get things ready. But he's going to end up selling the shed. So
So will you use that concrete slab?
we can,
as the
we can
base?
tie into that concrete slab. It's in the position in that backyard that we can build on that. So.
Is that concrete all the way back, or is it part, it looks like it rounds off, or is that just an optical illusion?
Yeah, there's kind of a driveway back there, but some of that's going to get cut out. I mean, it's not, the only part that we can use as far as for the garage is that thick slab that's there.
Well, you know, if that slab was 8 inches thick, you'd probably be,
Yeah.
yeah. Unfortunately. All right. Any other questions?
I guess for staff, have we got an example that we've granted before prior for the slope being off less than 5% or anything, you know?
So we, when I looked back, we'd granted 6 variances for additional height in for residential detached garages, but none of them referenced this slope provision. So I don't know if they were specific to this or not, or they just granted them.
But we've had examples where we've matched roof
But-
lines for house, for detached structures and things.
Well, 16 feet is the max height for a
Is the max.
detached accessory structure.
Okay.
If I can comment, there have been situations in the past where topography is such that, you know, if it's lower than the house, then to meet, you know, having a higher distance would be appropriate since, you know, basically your lower floor of the garage was the same elevation as the basement. So in those kind of situations, I know we've dealt with that. We've also had the opposite where the house is sometimes lower and, you know, that we've got a garage that is a little bit higher. So
So aesthetically, you're saying as long as the garage is lower, we've had instances where it's,
I can think of a couple cases where that
okay.
was the situation.
That was my concern too, that it didn't show from the front that it was lower than that the garage roof was lower in the front. Anyone else have comments before I close the public hearing and ask for motion? Okay, I'm closing the public hearing section of the meeting, asking for a motion for or against either.
I would motion for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval with conditions.
With yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Amending your motion for condition.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any further comment or discussion?
Just to reiterate again that unfortunately it does fail to prove that there is that burden or a unique circumstance to the situation. And that's, you know, at the end of the day, I know we've approved them in the past, but at the end of the day, that's why we have a code. is to
That's
follow
correct.
it, So,
Yes.
Could I make just one comment?
Yes.
So with 16 feet, I mean, we could go 16 feet and just put like a lean-to roof on it. You know, I mean, we could go up 16 feet, like on the side of the house, on that side, and then put a 2.5 slope on it, and that's not going to look very good at all. I mean, that's
I would
why
agree.
that's
It
kind of
would
why
be
we
out
want to
of
go with the
character for the house. It would be out of character. I think that
right.
At this
the way
point-
that it's presented would be more in line.
Yeah.
I think the comments around the table have generally concluded that, yep, we would prefer that the sight lines from the front to the back follow
Yeah.
the slope of the, and I think your current, structure as stated or as drawn would still follow that basic harmony of a step down in the back, and it would, again, looking like the house itself, seems to me to be, would be appropriate, and it would not be out of place, but yeah, a sloping lean-to would be look different.
but you could still have at the top you could have a garage at the top and not have that extra section. I mean, the garage would be shorter, unfortunately, but you pick that spot to live, that's kind of.
Okay, well, I have a motion and a second to approve at 19 feet 6 inches with conditions. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. I mean, when does this appear at the city?
Excuse me,
When does this appear for the city?
April 5th.
April 2nd, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Next item on the agenda for public hearing portion of the meeting is consider for approval the petition of Mike Crowell on behalf of M&D Properties, a partnership requesting the amendment of the city's comprehensive plan to allow high-density residential land uses in place of medium-density residential land uses for the property legally described as Lot 1, Block 2, Lakeside Village Edition.
Okay, the street address of the property is 1003 Mac Lane. The property is located east of Mac Lane and north of Village Lane. As was the situation previously, we are evaluating this request based on the city's current zoning ordinance, which is found in Chapter 9 of the City Code. Deadline for a decision on this matter is May 15th, 2022. The land use designation for the property, as was previously indicated, is medium-density residential. Surrounding land uses, according to the comprehensive plan, to the north, it's medium-density residential and low-density residential. To the east, it's medium, low, and high-density residential. To the south, low-density. And to the west, low density and park. The zoning designation is R3, Multiple Family Residence District. Surrounding zoning, to the north, property is located in Brown County, and Brown County has zoned that property A1, which is agriculture. To the east, we have Brown County with the A1, and then we have the city with an R3 and R1, R1 being single-family residence. To the south, we have R1 and R2, which is single and two-family residence district. And then to the west, we have R1 and Brown County's A1 agriculture. The current site use, there are 24 townhouse units on the property. They're located in 6 buildings, so that's 4 units per building. Area land uses to the north, it's vacant, and there is a road to a mining site, which is located further in that to the west. And then there's some farmed area. To the east, it's vacant. Then there is Ridgeway on 23rd, and then there are some other single-family residences in that area. To the south, we have single-family residences and then some vacant property as well. And to the west, we have single-family residences. We have a pond, and then we have that mining site. Notice was provided to all property owners within 350 feet of the subject property and published in the Journal on March 19th, 2022. Public comments. In your agenda packet, there are 4 emails that we've received. So you've have had an opportunity to hopefully look at those. I have 2 additional comments that I received after the agenda went out. And maybe when we get back into the attachments, if the chair had indicated that those should be read into the record, so we can do that. I would note that of those 2, one of them is anonymous.
Correct.
Okay, the project description. M&D Properties is proposing to construct 10 additional dwelling units on the east side of the property in one contiguous townhouse structure. This would bring the total number of dwelling units on the property to 34. The building would have a north-south alignment. A stormwater detention pond would be located in the southeast corner of the property. A portion of the building would be located in the rear yard setback area and would require a variance. Could we maybe bring up the one attachment that shows that so that we can?
Give me a second here. You want the site plan?
Yeah, that was part of the petition. Okay, so that's also in your agenda packet. And John, could you maybe point out where the building site is? So that's where the building is proposed. Could you show maybe where Mac Lane is? So that's where the entrance is. The Boundary Street is further to John's right in that direction. Does everyone kind of know where we're at here? Okay, why don't you show the retention pond then? So that's in that area. So does everybody kind of understand the location? And so the existing dwelling units, the 6 buildings that are there each have 4 units apiece. So those locations. Okay, thank you very much. Definition of a comprehensive plan. It's an official document of the city adopted by the city council as a policy guide to decisions about the physical development of the community. The plan is intended to be comprehensive, general, and long range. A comprehensive plan is intended to provide an outline for future community development, and the plan provides a foundation for land use management and control. The history of the city's comprehensive plan, the first officially adopted plan was in May of 1996. And at that time, this property was designated as industry and park land uses. And in our most recent revision of the comprehensive plan, which was September 4th, 2007, the property was designated for medium density land uses. Amendment criteria. A recommendation on the proposed comprehensive plan amendment should be based on consideration of the following criteria. And I should note that these criteria is not found in the city code, but we have used this in the past in evaluating these types of requests. A is that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and its goals, objectives, and policies. B is actually that double dash line, we're out of order a little bit, addresses the interests and needs of the entire city. C, which is the listed B, addresses changed conditions since the last time the comprehensive plan map or text was amended. D would be the subject property is suitable for development in general conformance with adjacent land uses and the surrounding development pattern. E is availability of municipal services to serve the subject property. And F is demonstrates a public benefit and embraces the public health, safety, and welfare of the city. Comprehensive plan definitions. So the definition for medium density residential is that it provides an area for single-family housing units that are attached to one another. Example of these housing types include twin homes, townhomes, and row houses. This land use could also include a mixture of attached housing and detached housing units in an integrated neighborhood. Buildings should not be more than 2 stories in height. Single structures with multiple housing units would be allowed subject to density and height limitations. The density in a medium density residential area should not exceed 8 units per acre. This site is 3.04 acres, so the maximum number of units is 24. The applicant is proposing a density of 11.3 units per acre. Current zoning regulations allow one type of high-density zoning district, and that's the R3 district that we currently have. The definition for high-density residential, and I might note that these definitions come right out of the comprehensive plan, is intended to provide a space for multi-story apartment condominium buildings. These areas may also include an integrated mixture of single and multi-story housing types. The land use plan will designate areas with land use, services, and streets needed to support this additional density. The city will use zoning regulations to control the maximum density of high-density residential. Current zoning regulations allow one type of high-density zoning district, and again, that's our R3 zone. Now, with the new zoning ordinance, we're going to an R3 and an R4, and that dividing line is 8 units per acre.
Excuse me, say that one more time.
Okay, the new R3 is going to be 8 units per acre or less. The new R4 is 8 units per acre or more.
Thank you.
Okay, project considerations. Does the proposed change generally comply with the identified criteria found in section A4 of this report? And 2, is this an appropriate location for high-density residential land uses given surrounding comprehensive plan land use designations? So we have a number of attachments. So we begin with the petition, which includes the site plan that we just looked at. We have a site location map. John, can we maybe take a look at the attachments?
Start here.
Yeah, that looks. Could you maybe show where Boundary Street is? Okay, and 23rd North is okay. Ridgeway on 23rd then is. It's right in that, right there, yeah. Okay, so you can all see the pond on the left side, and you can kind of see where the mining activity is taking place as well up on the top corner. Okay, the third attachment is the comprehensive plan map. And this property is highlighted in red. The fourth is our zoning map. The fifth is a development agreement that we entered into for this particular subdivision. And as part of that development agreement, there's a provision regarding the size or the number of units that can be located on the property. Attachment 6 are the email communications that we've received from area residents. Attachment 7 is a 2016 Lakeside Village Townhome Site Plan. And this was provided to us by the applicant at that time. And you'll note that that site plan shows 6 buildings with 4 units in each, and then the rear part of the property is a stormwater retention pond. So at that time, the 24-unit requirement was being complied with. And attachment 8 are ground level photographs of the property. Do you maybe want to describe what we're looking at?
Sure. So this is the entrance into the Lakeside Village townhomes off of Mac Lane, looking northeast. This is, again, from Mac Lane, looking at the property line between the townhomes and then the neighboring single-family residence to the south. In this picture, we're facing east. This is from Boundary Street, and looking to the west, you can see, if I could point it out better, That is where the tieback is on that building. That is the 6th townhome currently being constructed. Where this big cottonwood tree is, and the space between that townhome and again to the north here is where that new building would be proposed. This is again from Mac Lane, looking in the direction of the proposed new townhome area and then looking at the townhome currently being constructed.
Thank you. I guess at this time, I'd like to read those 2 other communications that we received into the record. The first one is as follows. My name is Mitch Bolkenstead, and I live at 1024 Mac Lane. My main concern with rezoning that area for high-density apartments is the amount of traffic and the speed of some of those cars and them doubling it. We have 2 small kids who play in the front yard sometimes, and some of these cars are going too fast. New Ulm does need some more apartment buildings like this, so hopefully we can compromise. One solution could be to ask to tie into the MR paving road that runs adjacent to those buildings. If that is not possible, I would ask for speed bumps when the paved road eventually gets put in. If that were the case, I would ask that the building not go up until the road is in place. Another alternative solution would be to place this complex right at the entrance to the Lakeside Village addition, right next to where the park is located. We can maybe show that to you on the map that we have. The applicant is also the owner of another property in this area that is vacant, and that abuts Boundary Street. And that's the area right that John's pointing to. Okay. It continues. Most of the houses in this development have small children, and with no sidewalks, it's a bit dangerous to ride bikes on the side of the road with the amount of fast traffic there is driving to the apartments. And it's signed by Mitch Bolkenstead. The second one is directed to myself. The subject is Lakeside Village High Density. Dear Mr. Schnobrick and the New Ulm Planning Commission, I am writing you to formally express concern with regards to the letter we received last week stating a formal petition has been filed by Mike Kroll and M&D Properties to amend the city's comprehensive plan to allow high-density residential land use on the property located at 1003 Mac Lane. My issue with this proposed amendment isn't with the creation of more apartment units that I understand the city of New Ulm is in desperate need of, but rather the byproduct of creating more apartments in the Hillside Village neighborhood in the form of additional traffic on our local neighborhood streets. As the Lakeside Village development has grown over the past few years, new families have moved in, many of those with young children that walk, ride bikes, and play nearby these streets. The additional traffic stresses on our neighborhood streets created by the already existing apartment units at 1003 Mac Lane does present safety concerns for us residents, parents, now due to the lack of paved streets, streetlights, and routine police patrols in our neighborhood. The thought of additional traffic increases in our neighborhood streets due to the creation of these proposed high-density apartments isn't something I am in favor of. However, could there be a trade-off in which this amendment was approved, but under the condition that there must be a new entry-exit point created to enter the apartment development from the east via Boundary Street through the neighborhood streets in Lakeside Village? I believe this solution benefits all parties by allowing the construction of another apartment at 1003 Mac Lane while also alleviating current and future traffic and safety issues for residents and families living within Lakeside Village neighborhood. Sincerely, concerned Lakeside Village resident. Okay, continuing with the staff report, Staff would recommend denial of the comprehensive plan amendment for the following reasons. 1, the current MDR designation in the comprehensive plan for the property is appropriate for the townhouse development that has taken place at this location. Townhouse development is specifically mentioned in the description for the MDR designation. 2, the requested HDR designation is not appropriate for the property. The definition of HDR states that it is a place for multi-story apartment and condominium buildings. In addition, HDR properties should have land use, services, and streets needed to support the additional density. The proposed development is not compatible with the adjoining single-family dwellings in this area, nor does the street system adequately serve this area since there is only one means of access to the property. It has a minimum street width of 60 feet and requires townhouse vehicles to pass by single-family dwelling units in order to access Boundary Street. 3, the city's comprehensive plan contains land use goals and policies. Goal 2 states that the city should create and maintain quality places to live. Policy statement 2.8 reads as follows. Locate high-density housing at appropriate locations throughout the city rather than cluster them in a single location. These locations should be compatible with adjacent land uses and the supporting street system. In this location, HDR would not be compatible with area single-family dwellings, nor does the street system support further development. Number 4, a 60-foot wide street width is the minimum amount allowed by the city's subdivision regulations. This type of roadway is classified as a minor street. Of the 3 gravel streets within Lakeside Village Addition, Mack Lane and Village Lane have 60-foot widths, and Lake Avenue has an 80-foot width. Mack Lane provides access to Lakeside Village townhomes and then intersects with Lake Avenue. Excuse me. There are 16 single-family lots, 1 R2 zone lot intended for a twin home, and the subject property that fronts this street. A 60-foot street width places traffic closer to a residential unit. The single-family residential units in this area are new and would generally be occupied by families. The reduced street width on Mack Lane, coupled with high traffic volumes, increases the potential for conflict between vehicles and children, pets, pedestrians, and recreational street users. Number 5, a large percentage of the HDR projects in New Ulm are served by collector, minor arterial, or major arterial streets. The subject property would be served by a minor street. Other than improvements to Boundary Street, North Highland Avenue, which will take place this year, there are no other plats contemplated for this area. There are no annexations under consideration, and there are no further street improvements to address the current one-way system into and out of the subject property. Number 6, on June 29th, 2005, the city of New Ulm entered into a development agreement with the then owners of the Lakeside Village Addition property. This type of agreement is normally required for a plat the size of Lakeside Village Addition. The agreement covers issues associated with the platting and development of the property. The agreement contains a provision limiting the number of dwelling units to 24 on Lot 1, Block 2. This was done with the intent of having a total unit number that would be compatible with the surrounding single-family and twin home development. The surrounding properties have been developed with the understanding that the subject property would be limited to 24 units. Any increase in the number of permitted units exceeding 24 would necessitate an amendment to the development agreement. The amended agreement would need to be signed by all owners, current owners within Lakeside Village Addition. After 17 years, staff does not see any reason to alter the permitted number of units from 24. And you can see attachment 5 for that particular requirement. Number 7, the proposed project would be located in a rear yard setback area. The new zoning ordinance requires a 35-foot rear yard setback. The preliminary site plan shows a 15-foot rear yard setback. This will require a variance. Staff does not believe this request meets the standards for granting a variance. Number 8, the proposed development plan would create a continuous building wall, which includes doors and windows with dimensions, and this is approximate, of 160 by 17 feet, 160 in length, 17 feet in height. Including the roof would increase the building height to 25 feet. If the variance is granted, this wall would be 15 feet from the property line. So 160 feet is the equivalent of 3 city grid lots, and it's going to be 25 feet high. That's going to be continuous. This is an excessive length of building, and its proximity to the adjoining property would, in staff's opinion, adversely impact it. Number 9, the project would be subject to the requirements of the new zoning ordinance. If the comprehensive plan amendment is approved, it would be necessary to rezone the property to R4, which is the high-density residence district. The project will also likely be subject to other new requirements. Number 10, the city is in the process of preparing a new comprehensive plan. The city has received 3 proposals from consultants for this work. It is anticipated that the project could start in April 2022. It would not be appropriate at this time to make changes to the existing comprehensive plan until the new plan is completed and adopted by the city council. I think the concern there is we're focusing on just one particular piece of property. And if we make changes to that particular piece of property, should we be looking at changes then for other pieces of similar type of property? Given these reasons, staff has made the following determinations using the criteria previously provided for granting a comprehensive plan amendment. A, the request is not consistent with the comprehensive plan and its goals, objectives, and policies. B, the request focuses on a relatively small parcel of property and does not address the interests and needs of the entire city. C, the project may address a changed condition since the last time the comprehensive plan map or text was amended. While there is a need for more housing units within the community, this is not an appropriate location for additional housing for reasons stated earlier in this report. There are other more suitable locations for high-density housing within the community. And D, the subject property is not suitable for development in general conformance with adjacent land uses and the surrounding development pattern. Information on this criteria has been provided earlier in the report. So what we're talking about there is the street size, the fact that this is primarily a single-family area, and that that type of development pattern does not be consistent with more units. E, municipal services are available to serve the subject property. And then F, the comprehensive plan amendment does not demonstrate a public benefit and embrace the public health, safety, and welfare of the city. The benefit in this case is primarily private. Then 2 motions are provided, one to deny the request and one to approve the request. That would conclude the staff report.
Thank you. Are there questions for the city or?
Dave, when we entered in that agreement in 2005, and we were on the 24 units, and it's under so many per acre, at that time, our comp plan was at, how old was our comp plan, or maybe I'm trying to say is, how did we compare to other cities at that time for high density versus medium density? Were we high, low, or just average, or where would we establish that number of 8 units per?
Okay, the 8 units per acre, that would actually came from the consultant that we retained to do the comprehensive plan. And so they were a planning consultant, so they've got access to information from other communities, so that's where it came from.
Okay, the new planning comprehensive plan is 8, and now it's currently 10? Is that what I read?
No, the current comprehensive plan says 8 units per acre.
Okay. And
That's what's been in effect since 2007.
And we got 11.3 is what's on the
is
agenda.
what's on the agenda.
Correct.
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 No.
And the project were to be constructed, with 10 units. Yeah, I suppose it's possible that, once you change the land use designation, you also would have to change the zoning classification as well. But then it opens up to, a lot more units.
I have a question regarding safety, fire safety, emergency vehicle safety in that area. It looked to me like there's one way in and one way out of this entire complex area. Would there be access to, if there were a fire or?
Well, if you looked at the
I guess
site plan that was provided with the petition, you notice that there was kind of a cul-de-sac area.
Correct.
And I assume that would be adequate for turning around fire safety equipment. Elwood would be in a better position to answer that, though.
Yeah, looking there is criteria in the fire code for access, and when you have a one-way in, one-way out, you can have a cul-de-sac, a T road, or being able to back out, and there's certain distances, and I believe it meets that criteria.
It meets that requirement?
Yeah.
It meets the requirement, okay.
But can you get to anything from the back side of that?
No, there would be no, you wouldn't be able to reach anything from the back side of it. Everything would have to come in from Mac Lane.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Question on, and I don't know who it exactly goes to, or maybe it's just more of a statement, but on attachment 1 and on attachment 7, when you're looking at the drawings from both 2016 and the ones both recently, when you look at the property line from the existing townhomes to the, I'm horrible with directions, on the bottom of the page of attachment 7, I don't know if that'd be south, on the south side. So there are trees identified in this drawing on both of them, but there are not trees in the photos. So is that still coming, or is that not happening? I know that's not necessarily part of this request, but just something that I'm observing, and that ties in with the complaints that we're getting in these letters.
Are you talking about trees that were promised to be planted and are lacking?
Yes.
Okay. Name and address, please.
Hi there, I'm Mike Crawl with Mike Crawl Construction. My address is 56491 County Road 15.
Thank you.
There's shrubs actually in between the back property line, and there's trees along Mac Lane, and there's some trees inside the property, and we've kind of been adding them as construction has been going on. So we're just kind of.
Saying on this area here?
Yeah, there's shrubs along the back property to kind of block the front, or the two properties from the apartments. They're hard to see until they green up, but there is some there, so. And another thing on the traffic, the letter that was sent out was kind of confusing because it didn't really explain, the size of building or the units. And I think a lot of people were worried about that because I got a few phone calls from people out there. I built a lot of the houses out there. And the way it was worded from the city is it just went from medium to high density. So we're only looking to add, 10 more units. We're not looking to double what's already out there. So we're just trying to add a few more units. And the speeding, we don't know for sure if that's from the people in the apartments or where it's coming from. There's other houses out there too. We've reached out to our tenants and warned them, not to be speeding or anything like that. But a lot of these people that are in these apartments are, some of them are doctors and higher end. These are kind of considered a higher end apartment. They're pretty expensive to rent, so it's not like there's a lot of riffraff out there or anything like that. So, you know, part of the reason we're asking for this is everybody knows right now more than ever that, you know, material costs and land acquisition is really hard to come by right now. And by approving this, we're able to minimize the cost of construction because we don't have to go out and buy other land. The infrastructure's there already. We have the site already purchased. So it just keeps the cost down to be able to afford, you know, to be able to build affordable housing for people in town here. And it's only going to get worse, just with the way things are, with the way land is right now to acquire it. Land's at an all-time high. Building costs are at an all-time high. And by approving this, it would definitely help us generate more, you know, affordable housing in New Ulm. So.
Affordable housing, but in the previous statement, you said this was higher-end housing.
It's higher end as in like it's nicer units for people. And this building that we want to build would have some one-bedroom apartments in it because there's a demand for that for single moms or single dads or just one single people. So we'd be able to keep the cost down on some of those units, but still maintain a clientele that, you know, it's a nice demographic.
I have an issue with the fact that we're being asked to change the plan or alter the plan, plus then variances are going to have to be applied for regarding setbacks. It's quite a difference in the setback too. Am I not correct? Because the initial setback would be 35 feet and they're asking to go within 15 feet. That's a lot of a setback. It's also a very small area. I'm concerned about the retention pond there. It looked like initially the plan was to be the long retention pond that would absorb for that entire area, and now it's shrunk down.
Condensed.
It's condensed, and it's within feet, probably 10, 15 feet of the property, which isn't much. So again, if there's that many children in the area, is this appropriately fenced and guarded?
It's an old gravel pit, so
I
the
realize
water
that.
really drains away quickly. There is the retention pond is a little deeper than what the long one that was originally figured, but there's hardly ever any standing water in the retention pond. And by adding this, we eliminated some garages that were originally planned for the site just because it was too congested in there. So we just eliminated those, and the need for them wasn't there. So we're really the square footage of coverage on the lot really won't change actually with approving this plan.
Except if we approve this plan, then you're coming back with variances again. I mean, it doesn't seem to fit.
Yeah.
Once
There's actually, you know, 4
It seems
different
to mushroom.
things. We have the comp plan. We would have to rezone the property. City council would have to change the development agreement, and that development agreement amendment would have to be signed by every property owner out in that addition. And then we've got the variance on top of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of time, and I struggle a little bit with we don't know the future of the road right behind it, where the gravel pit
Yeah.
road access point there. You know, say for example, Dave, if he would acquire more land, you know, to that side of it, would he fall on the guidelines, you know, where that access point is there? Would we be changing a lot then?
Well,
this project?
if he owned more land, then he would fall within our requirements for the, you know, either the R3 or the R4
Yeah.
zoning district, and that would determine the number of units that
Yeah.
he could build there.
Yeah, because, I mean, even right now, I mean, if we would approve it and it would go through, and then, you know, we got to go through the other variances and everything else, you know, we still have the hindrance of the mining road there. you know, and I don't know how the adjoining, you know, M&R, you know, would feel about encroaching upon a road or with the truck traffic and stuff like that nature.
M&R is leasing the property for mining purposes. I believe the Runk family is the owner of the property.
Mm-hmm.
And that is in Brown County, and so we have absolutely no jurisdiction within that area. Our city engineer is also here, but he previously advised me that, you know, we would not allow a public road to be extended into Brown County as a private road. It would need to be public.
Okay.
And I know it doesn't fit into the, you know, 2005, but I just feel like it's, you know, it's something that we need to start looking at just with, you know, changing some of that stuff, because I just feel like we're really going to run into some problems down the road here if we don't start innovating a little bit. And it might ruffle some feathers on some people, or it might, you know, it's I see it in other towns, Mankato, you know, they're putting, and I'm not asking for covering the whole property, we're just adding, you know, trying to add a few more units. And I just feel that we could definitely use it in town.
A few more units, what is and I understand we're at the max now, so 10 units to me, what would the purpose of going to a 10 unit instead of another 4 unit or 2 4s or?
It just fit, you know, we could definitely scale it back too, if that's a concern, if it's too big of a building.
But we're still at the
Right,
max, and
we
we have
just-
to change all the.
When we measured it out and I got some rough measurements, that's kind of about what we could fit on there. And we just thought we'd explore our options or whatever, so.
I understand.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm a very huge advocate for having these types of high density places in places that are like this. Like when we were going through our ordinance and looking at the map, like that was something that was a huge concern of mine, that we didn't have more places like this throughout the community. So I commend you for that, and I commend you for trying to come up with an alternative solution and everything like that. However, on this one, I just don't think this site is quite ready for that amount of traffic yet. And the road not being there makes me really nervous too. But I would love to see you take that initiative on this one and see if there's other areas that we could be more creative to do things like this.
Sure. I think the road, and maybe Joe would know this, I think they're planning on putting streets in probably within the next few years.
And so maybe this concept is a little before its time, and it's best to wait until after we get the comp plan done, after the road's put in, and then come back and look at that.
Madam Chair, Commission members, Joe Stein, I'm City Engineer for the City of New Ulm. The improvements in Lakeside Village are currently not identified in my capital improvement plan, which goes out 3 years. However, none of that's set in stone, but the trigger for kind of development out there is within the development agreement states 50% of the lots either being sold or built on. So we are getting close. If there's room for me to fit that within the capital improvement plan in the future, it's probably going to happen sooner rather than later, but it is not identified at this time. So throwing out numbers, I would say within the next 5 years, maybe sooner, maybe later, but.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just a question, Joe. We have not received any information on the adequacy of the stormwater retention pond.
No.
As far as its size or.
Yeah, my office has not seen any calculations or documentation that the proposed pond will be big enough. There's no storm sewer on site to direct water to the pond, so that's why the existing pond is very rarely filled with water. As far as a stormwater standpoint, there are many improvements that need to be made to this site as it exists today. I do have concerns if it's improved in being able to handle the stormwater quality volume that's required by the MPCA and our stormwater ordinance.
Thank you.
I guess I'd like to comment a little more about the Lakeside Village Development Agreement that was created. So this document's been out there, and I assume you all were aware that this was slated to have 24 condominium units, but I think we need to listen to the neighbors here, and we've gotten more feedback on this than any thing that we've discussed since I've been on the commission. And so I think we need to listen to the neighbors. There are people who are really concerned, and I guess I don't understand if this was the agreement and we all were aware of this, why we just are going to continue to build. I mean, this is in black and white, and
I mean, I didn't come up with it. I think the people that came up with it, you know, it actually went into foreclosure at one time, that, who created it originally. So it was forfeited, and so it was way before my time. I didn't create it. I'm just strictly, like I said, I'm just trying to create more housing for town.
right.
Generates more tax revenue. And, you know, like I said, I know there's a lot of people that drive over to Mankato or other communities to live, and they drive to New Ulm to just, you know, so I just look at, you know, the benefits of them people living in town and buying groceries here and, you know, having their kids go to school here and all that stuff, just not working here and then driving back to Mankato or St. Peter or, you know, Cortland or whatever. So that's just kind of why our reasoning is just trying to create more housing affordable.
I would note that, you know, those statements are probably true, but that's not criteria or reasons for making this type of change.
Do we have any examples if we've ever amended the comp plan for housing, you know, from like an R, you know, for medium to high density?
We have made amendments to the comprehensive plan, but I don't think, I can't think of anything right now that would apply where we went from medium density to high density. I do think for Skyline Terrace apartments that we may have labeled that medium density, and it was an error on our part. And so when they came in with their plan, we had to increase it to high density residential, but it was because of a mistake that we made, not because of a market condition.
Mhm. I know, Dave, we at one of our council meetings, we had a proposed developer looking at Maplewood and Highland. Would that be then considered a high density, or would that be a medium density potentially for the future for that project?
Well, first of all, it's outside of, you know, the city currently, so it would have to be annexed in. And I think looking at that probably would be high density residential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I was just trying to, you know, look at sizes and acreage and eyeing up, but maybe we're a little too early yet, you know, and, you know, when we're looking at the comp plan here yet, for the future of our housing needs and size, but we're also hearing it from our neighbors. You know, concerned about the road yet for the runk pit there that MR uses yet, and, you know, how that's gonna come out yet, you know. That's
I have
just,
a lot of concerns.
those
as
are
far as
mine right now.
vehicles and-
yeah, until you get another access point in there and road, and if that's ever gonna happen, I just, I'm concerned about that,
You'd think that would make it more palatable for the people who live there now, too.
if there was another access
Mhm.
point.
Well, I
for
also
roads.
have a problem with the variance of from 35 to 15 feet. That's a huge variance. Butting up to nothing, you know,
Yeah.
it's,
I should note that under the current ordinance, the actual setback is 20% of the depth of the lot. So I think it was, 91 feet or something. So the new ordinance actually reduces it
Yeah.
a fairly substantial amount.
okay. Do we have any more questions, comments, statements? Otherwise, I'm closing the public hearing and asking for a motion. Public hearing is closed. Thank you, Mr. Call. Is there a motion?
I would make a motion to recommend the denial of the petition by Mike Kroll as stated.
Have a second to that motion? Second. I have a motion and a second to deny the request for the amendment to the comprehensive plan. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, moving on to the subdivision of property.
Apologize, I have,
That's fine.
sorry.
Thank you. Consider for approval the request of Carol Belter on behalf of WEC Hilltops Acres LLC to use an unplatted legal description of to facilitate the sale of the property legally described as part of Outlot 155, 156, 172, and 173.
The street address of this property, this is just going to put you in the vicinity, is 1211 Raymond Drive. This property is located north of 12th North Street and east of North Highland Avenue. And so the land use designation is low-density residential. The surrounding land uses to the northeast and west are low-density residential, and to the south we have medium-density residential. The zoning designation is RA, which is an agricultural residence district. RA is kind of our holding pattern type of zoning district. The zoning to the north is RA, to the east it's RA and R1, to the south R1, to the west RA, R1. The current site use is its property is vacant. Area uses, we've got wooded hillside and farm property to the northeast and south, and we have farm property to the west. Notice none is required. Public comment none received to date. Status of utilities is not applicable. And regarding park areas, the comprehensive plan does not designate a park within this area. Project description. Wake Second Edition was platted in December of 2006. That plat consisted of 22 residential lots. 6 of those lots front on Oak Street. Those lots have been sold and developed following the installation of utility and street improvements. The remaining 16 lots front unimproved 12th North Street, and so consequently they remain undeveloped. And the legal description of those properties is lots 1 through 9 of Block 1 and 1 through 7 of Block 2. And if you look at Attachment 2, you note that. The owner of these properties is now proceeding with plans to install utilities and complete street improvements this spring that would allow for the construction of housing on the lots. To address the stormwater requirements for the property, the owner intends to construct a stormwater retention pond. The pond would serve the 16 undeveloped lots as well as the remainder of the watershed. And the watershed has a total of 16.8 acres. And the watershed is depicted on Attachment 3. I would note that within the watershed there are 2 owners, the City of New Ulm and this particular ownership group, Wake's Hilltop Acres. The pond location is at the top end of a ravine that extends to North Garden Street. The pond property is not developable in its current condition. You'd have to do a lot of filling to bring it to that condition. That's noted on Attachment 2. The owners will construct the pond and upon its completion, transfer ownership of the pond to the city. The amount of land area to be transferred to the city for the stormwater pond is 1.99 acres. An easement area for the stormwater system would also provide access to the pond property from Raymond Drive. And we will show you documents depicting this in just a little bit. In the future, a street is planned for this area and it could take the place of the easement area. So the easement area could be temporary in nature. In order to transfer the property to the city, a legal description must be prepared. City regulations would typically require a platted legal description However, in some situations, the requirement can be waived and an unplatted legal description, also known as a meets and bounds legal description, can be used in its place. The approval process to use an unplatted legal description requires the Planning Commission to review and provide a recommendation to the City Council on the request. The criteria to be used in considering this request is found in the city's subdivision regulations, section 10.03 subdivision 2. This section allows the City Council to waive the plating requirement provided compliance with the foregoing restriction would create an unnecessary hardship, and failure to comply does not interfere with the purpose of the subdivision regulations. The city has approved similar requests in the past, and I should note that typically when a piece of property is subdivided, but no development takes place on it, we will oftentimes utilize this process knowing that it's going to be platted at some time in the future. So why do a plat that really serves no purpose? I mean, we'll get to the platted description, maybe at a later time. The attachments include the applicant's letter, then a plat of Wake second edition. Why don't you? And so this particular plat was approved back in 2005. And could you, John, maybe show the lots at front on 12th North Street? And so that area is all farmed at the present time. Okay, then we have a utility and access easement. And that simply depicts the area that where we're going to have what I think is a temporary easement that will get us to the property that the city is actually going to own. And that shows on the next slide right there. So that particular parcel of property sits behind, you see the lots in the dashed lines. And the actual pond area is depicted, within the solid lines. Then we have an aerial photograph. And so you can see the individual lots. And why don't you show where that, so the pond is going to be right down in that area. You can kind of see the beginning of the ravine. And that ravine would take you all the way down to North Garden Street. And then we have ground level photographs. Oh, I'm sorry. Watershed. Okay, we've got the watershed area and pond location. You want to?
Here is the location of the city's park property.
Yeah.
And here is 12th and the undeveloped.
So you can see where the pond is proposed. And so that, kind of our challenge is we have to depict or describe where that pond area is so it can be transferred to the city. And so that's why we want to use an unplatted legal description. Then we have ground level photograph. This is, John, this is where the road would be if we extend it, if we go straight ahead.
Right, this is looking down 12th North towards the high school. This is looking north, kind of northwest towards the airport, and then in the middle, you can see it slopes down, and that's where the pond area is going to be located. This is from the west side of the pond area, looking at where the pond is going to be. So this is kind of the lowest point. Where that shrub is and where the pointer is, this is kind of going to be the deeper part or the main area of that stormwater retention pond. And then this is taking a picture straight north from the beginning of where the pond will be starting to be shaped and sloped for stormwater retention.
So staff would recommend approval of the request. Since the approval of the request would avoid an unnecessary hardship, since a standalone plat of the property is not necessary at this time, and then B, it would not interfere with the purpose of the subdivision regulations. 2, the use of a meets and bounds legal description is a temporary measure until the property can be platted in the future with an adjoining parcel of property. 3, this would allow the construction of a public utility facility to serve a developing residential area. 4, this action would permit the sale of the property to the city, and the city will retain ownership and control of the property. 5, the location of the stormwater retention pond is unique due to its topography. And 6, the action will not adversely impact the development of any surrounding properties. And then there are 3 conditions. 1 is that the resolution approving this request will be filed with the Brown County Recorder's Office. 2, an electronic file of the drawings in an AutoCAD 2016 or newer format will be provided to the city. And 3, the property will be platted with an appropriate adjoining plat that abuts the property. Then there are 2 motions, one to approve and one to deny.
That it?
That's it.
Thank you. Pretty straightforward.
Need more land for housing to be built, and yeah, it's a slow process sometime, but
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and we do need retention. It's going to run right down to Garden Street.
yep. I'll offer a motion to recommend approval of the use of the unplotted legal description to facilitate the sale of the property as legally described in attachment 2 with conditions.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve with conditions. Is there any other questions, comments, statements? If not, David, did you have?
No, the only thing I would note is that they do intend to start construction yet in April, if at all possible. So.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. City reports.
Okay, at the City Council's March 1st meeting, they allowed with conditions the application of Paul Nayers on behalf of Dopeluk and Vineyards LLC and F&M Properties LLC, requesting a CUP to operate a farm winery in a B3 general business zoning district. And that's at 225, 227 North Minnesota Street. They had the second consideration of ordinance number 2022-49, adopting a new zoning ordinance. That was unanimously approved. And they also then unanimously approved a resolution of support for housing and local decision-making authority. And this is in response to a introduction of a number of bills at the state legislature that I think maybe have 2 purposes. One is the intent is to reduce the cost of housing because of the fees that municipalities and other government units charge for housing. And then the second, I think, purpose was to try to increase housing density. So one of the proposals, for example, was to eliminate single-family zoning. That so you could have an extra unit in a single-family dwelling. What was interesting about this process is that all of the information that was introduced that was in favor of this type of legislation all dealt with the metropolitan area. There wasn't one example of a greater Minnesota city, being having a problem with this. And one of the things that we did is we went back and looked at our building permits for the last 10 that we issued, and we compared our costs versus the value of the building permit, and we were less than 1%. And the groups that were promoting this were saying that the cost of these fees on housing was in the range of 10%. Well, again, that might be what's taking place in the metro area. I don't know, but it seems to be a metro problem that the solution was going to be applied statewide. And so that's why they requested resolutions from cities saying that, don't take away our control to, address what, to have a type of community that we want to have, So, and right now that legislation seems to, it's not moving real quickly, so I don't know if it has a future yet this year or this legislative session, but I can see it coming back in the future. So, have to remain vigilant, I guess. At the March 15th meeting, they had a public hearing on the final plat of Milford Heights 5th Edition, and that was approved with conditions. You may remember that's where the twin homes are going, that Al Taylor had been here previously. The development agreement on that particular project, that'll be at the next council meeting for approval. Brown County awarded a contract to Mathewitz Construction Company for the construction of North Highland Avenue and Boundary Street from North Garden Street all the way down to North Broadway, and that's $3.7 million project. Then another item, they moved the farmer's market to North German Street between 1st to 3rd, starting on June 25th.
Where is it going to be?
Oh,
North German Street from between 3rd and 1st. I think it's a good location.
it'll be on the street, but not in the park. Oh, in the street?
North German Street.
So just between the park and Inspire.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Construction equipment going to be gone? Well, where are they going to park?
They'll be giving some of that away too. You can buy a piece of lumber for 25 cents or something. It'll clean out the parking lot that way.
Scraps.
There's a parking lot below the hill.
We gotta make it convenient for people.
Maybe they should move it below the hill.
Okay, the final thing I want to note is the new zoning ordinance goes into effect on April 3rd, which is a Sunday, which we thought was, a good omen. It'll be effective April 4th. So starting with the next planning commission meeting, with some requests, we're going to be dealing with different criteria. We're going to have maybe different application forms. We're going to be implementing findings of fact. And so there's going to kind of be maybe some different approaches to some of the things that we have done in the past. I'm not saying that we're going to be able to implement this all at the April meeting, and we will have an April meeting. But we will in the next couple months start to implement those requirements. That's it.
Thank you. Elwood.
We did have an HPC meeting. There was 2 design reviews, one for the old Red Sloth hardware store for changing out windows, going same color design as what's in New Vera, the dark bronze and those open windows. And then for the south part of Kaiserhof and opening that up and putting windows back in there also.
Oh,
That was it.
thank you.
Yep.
Is there any other business to come before the commission?
No.
I hope to thank you for your extra time, and the meeting is adjourned.